Welcome to Voices of 401, your union podcast, keeping you informed, empowered, and connected with the latest from your local.
Welcome to episode 2 of Voices of 401. If you're joining me for the first time, welcome. If it's your second time, welcome back. See how long you can keep that streak going. Today we're going to be talking with Justin and Harvey about Safeway bargaining. Last time on the pod we talked to Tom Hesse about the same topic, but we're going to approach it from a little bit of a different lens this week, in that we're going to be taking it from a worker perspective. If you want to stay up to date, make sure that you subscribe and follow this podcast, as future episodes will be coming out hopefully bi-weekly. And by weekly, fortnightly, I've always preferred fortnightly to bi-weekly for describing something that happens every 2 weeks. Fortnightly is 14 days. Bi-weekly to me, every time in my mind, I'm like, is that twice a week? Or would that be semi-weekly? Anyway, this is a debate that we can all have together in the workplace when you're talking about what's going on. So let's get into it. But of course, it wouldn't be internet content without me asking you to like, subscribe, follow, comment, whatever you do, thumbs up, whatever platform you're listening on. It really helps us. And leave a comment about future shows that you'd like to hear about and topics you'd like discussed. All right, let's get into it for real. I can tell you from firsthand experience that being at the bargaining table is a bit of a different beast than just doing your normal job. At least for me it was. When we went to the bargaining table originally, to paint you a bit of a picture, it's in a lawyer's office in Edmonton, just off downtown. You know, it's not in like some grand skyscraper downtown. It's, you know, one of those like 6-7 story buildings that you see all over the place that are just like that brown concrete brutalist architecture on the outside. So that top floor at least, with a nice view overlooking nearby construction site. So spending, you know, hopefully many hours in there bargaining. For us, it was a lot of waiting, because what essentially happens is you meet in a location, you exchange your proposals. Typically, you run each other through all the language that's present there, and then they leave to go talk about it, because something I think that many people don't realize is the people who the company are sending to bargaining typically have like no decision-making power when it comes to these larger corporations. They've all got a boss who's got a boss somewhere, so anything that's said at the bargaining table, they've got to go away and talk to like 6-7 people to actually make a decision. But it's a little bit different on the union side, because the people who are making the decisions are the workers who are part of the bargaining committee. So the bargaining committee is, in Safeway's case, quite large, because there are many Safeway workers across the province, and so they all nominate someone to go to the bargaining committee and represent the workers when it comes to voting on these proposals and things that are exchanged back and forth. And so if you're just a regular worker like I was, I come in and I do my 9 to 5, going to a whole day of meetings in like a lawyer's office was a very different experience for me. It involves a lot of note taking and being very like meticulous with sorting through how proposals are exchanged and what time they're handed off and what this language means versus what that language means. But ultimately, that's where the union staff come in, who are a little bit more equipped to deal with a lot of that legalese and procedure and policy types of things. So typically your bargaining committee is made up of that group of workers and then some members of the staff. So in the case of Safeway bargaining, we have Chris O'Halloran, who's doing the lead negotiating, and 2 of our reps, April and Aaron. The neat thing I learned when I got into bargaining with 401 was that we engage in open bargaining. And you might say, well, what's open bargaining? Or you might not, and you might already know what it is. But for those of you who don't, like me at the time, was open bargaining is if you're a worker, part of a bargaining unit, you could just go and observe bargaining. Like any of these meetings that we're having in these lawyer offices or hotel conference rooms, you could just come and sit in. And and you can see what's going on. And I think that's really powerful, because you don't want to feel like decisions are being made behind closed doors, or that you don't have a chance to see everything that's going on. So the level of transparency is quite nice, in my opinion. I'm sure the company would disagree with me, because everything is out in the open, and that, can color the way that they behave. Sitting down at the bargaining table, and you're sitting across from these, usually very highly paid executives, and they're not able to make any sort of decisions, and you're the one that's there making decisions, and you can make choices with your fellow coworkers around you. You don't have to leave the room. You don't have to talk to anybody else. Is very empowering. It's a very empowering feeling. So it's definitely one of those moments where you're like, oh yeah, that's the power of unions. If you haven't lived through it, I would highly suggest, if you take an interest in bargaining, that you look to be on your bargaining committee. It's not a frivolous position, and it's quite important, because you're representing thousands of your union members, potentially, depending on the size of your workplace. With my workplace, we were quite small, less than 20 people, so doing updates and communications and everything was quite easy, but it gets to be quite a serious job if you're trying to reach potentially thousands of union members wherever they're working. And, it's a big undertaking. You're looking at long hours, potentially boring hours, sitting there waiting for the company to come back, diligent note-taking, and just general attentiveness overall throughout the day is quite a different experience, and I would recommend it if you have any sort of interest in bargaining at all. But enough about my personal bargaining experience. Let's hear from Harvey and Justin. Who would like to introduce themselves first?
All right.
All right, take it away, Harvey.
My name is Harvey Carson. I'm a deli clerk. I've been working at Safeway for almost 15 years.
I'm Justin Dankert, and I'm a coffee bar operator, and I've been with Safeway for 6 years.
Awesome. And so have you been hearing anything in your stores lately? Things that people have been concerned about, or people, talking to you about bargaining at all at this point?
As some of our top rate employees members will no doubt be aware, the number one question people are asking is, are we getting the money back? And of course, we have other things happening with that. We have the appeals case we're waiting to hear back on now. And top rate members also know this is not their first time bargaining. It's early days. We're still going through non-monetary proposals, still making ground on that, getting those things agreed to. We're still in second week. We're looking at dates into May now, potentially. So it's still a long haul.
There's definitely a lot of curiosity. It's hard to give concrete information at the very earliest stages, but we are definitely already hearing lots of what's going on. There's a lot of challenges and concerns that, we've been kind of keeping in mind over time coming up to the start of bargaining.
Oh yeah, for sure. As someone who's personally been through bargaining, it is a long process. But maybe for our members who might not exactly know how bargaining works, can you walk us through what actually happens at the table? What's the process like from a worker perspective? And is this the first time that you've been involved in bargaining?
We are both new to bargaining. This is both our first time. The process of bargaining is it's a lot of waiting. You get down there in the morning, you get to the bargaining table, you start looking over the last proposals that were discussed the day before. What will happen is both sides will have some of their proposals that they want the other side to answer to. I'm not sure if our listeners have already seen both the proposal packages. They're on the union website, gounion.ca. So we'll have a set of things the company wants us to look at, and we have a list of things we want the company to look at. We take those, we look at them, we figure out what our responses are going to be. We might have a counter proposal. We might have a question because we just don't know exactly what the company wants to do with this, or there's an implication we want to make sure we fully understand before we can give an answer to. And we'll figure all that out as a committee. Everybody gets a chance to speak. We might have 4 people want to speak, we might have 20 people want to speak on an issue, and we'll figure out what the consensus is and then what we're going to say to the company. We figure out what things we want worded for in our proposals to the company, and then we'll meet. The company will give the answers to the questions we gave them last time. They'll have new things they want us to look at, and we'll do the same. And then we go separate ways. We continue our process. As we understand it on the company side, they're going to make some calls. They might have an answer for us. We might be waiting 3 days. They might not have an answer until the next session of bargaining, depending on who they have to talk to. And we just go round and round.
Yeah, so we often say that things remain a live issue when it's not like you sat down and talked about it one time and then it was open and closed. There's a lot of back and forth. So many things are live issues right now. I think yesterday Chris was saying that we had exchanged about 39 proposals between both sides, and it goes in batches, and that's kind of just to give you like a starting point. You get a foothold so that, like, because you're looking at these big packages of, you know, so many pages of proposals, and you want to just kind of, okay, where do we start? How do we dig into this? And we'll pick out, you know, some of the issues that we think might be like good openers for discussion. We've told the workers what's happening here, but there's so many people that like they struggle to understand like what is bargaining.
It's a long and complicated process. Like there's a lot of back and forth. I know, like, you probably, well, for those of you who haven't attended bargaining before, you're usually sitting there with a giant binder of all the proposals, and you're going through them one by one. And even in this situation, it's a little bit unique, right? Because there's 3 CBAs that are being bargained right now, if I got that right.
Yeah, we have a province-wide retail agreement. We have the Northern Meat and Deli Agreement and the Southern Meat and Deli Agreement. Largely Edmonton and area and the north, and then the Calgary area and the south. There's a lot of times where we'll look at something and we start seeing, okay, the language doesn't actually line up in all 3. And these are, we've been a unionized workplace for, what was it, 80 years?
I think 75.
75 years. So there's definitely some things there that are very old. We don't necessarily know always when we're talking where some of these things originated, where they came from. There was something the company found today where they're like, we're pretty sure this is actually from the 90s, and we didn't ever actually put in the date of when this was supposed to start, and we have to figure that out and double check all of our own bargaining notes going back that far to figure that out. Sometimes we have to move things around to make sure they line up and they all read the same way.
Right. So that's a lot more complicated than a lot of bargaining ends up being, because usually you're dealing with 1 CBA and here you are dealing with 3. Well, and Justin, you alluded to it earlier, but, members are often asking about wages. And with bargaining, we usually deal with money at the end versus at the beginning. And what can you either of you tell our listeners about that? Why do we approach it like that?
Well, I think that everything has a financial aspect to it. I've taken some collective bargaining classes, and they kind of teach you, like, even the non-monetary items, there's a way that a price tag can end up being attached to that, even if it's not like just hardline definition wages or benefits. When you're asking for PPE, those things have a cost attached to them. When you're asking for a safety program, that might have a cost attached to the development. So it's typical, I would say, for some of the more concrete like dollar signs to be talked about at the very, very end, once we've kind of taken a look at, like, okay, here's all of the things on the table, and now that we're gonna put the concrete money into the mix, we're gonna start accounting for the costs of other things. Money can also be like kind of tense to talk about. It's not the easiest thing to discuss, so it can sometimes be easier to open the floor up with topics that don't directly include that price tag off of the bat.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, everything's got a cost to it. Do you have anything to add to that, Justin?
I do, yeah. If you look through the company proposals, you'll see every single one of them is in some way a cut. The last thing they want to do is talk about raising wages. That's not something the company's interested in. I suspect you go into any bargaining, that's probably the last thing the company wants to do. What they want to do is find ways to save money, find ways to control things, restrict them in certain ways. And what we're trying to do is expand on different things. So the easiest way to do that is talk about the things the company wants to talk about and find ways maybe we can direct this to also talk about something we're interested in. So that's why we deal with the non-monetary issues. The monetary issues, that's going to be the fight at the end. That's going to be the big thing where we might be up all night just arguing over the lettering of something. That's where we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty. And yeah, that's at the end because the company doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I could definitely see getting, 71, 72 proposals of concessions put in front of you. It must be a little bit disheartening. But, round 2 is wrapped up today, this afternoon, I guess. And so what's new or different this time around? You can say it's the same too if you want. That's okay.
I think we're definitely starting to see some movement. There's a few things we've been able to come to agreement on. So we're definitely finding the areas where the company is willing to talk, where they're willing to start making some motion on. There's still a lot of things. The company came at us with 71 proposals, and is it 2 we have agreement on now?
Yeah, and it might,
2 agreements and 1 withdrawal.
Partial agreements, like they might not be like a full proposal that's accepted. It's like after several passes back and forth, we come to agreement on a portion of it.
Yeah.
But
we haven't started the memorandum of understanding yet, which is where we're going to have these are the ones that we actually have agreed to, and we're not going to have to talk about them anymore. That hasn't happened yet. So,
right. So we're pretty much wrapping up round 2 today. So also thinking back to round 1 in Calgary, what were the key takeaways for both of you during that round of bargaining about, how Sobeys is approaching or these rounds of negotiations, or what their attitude is like?
Well, it was all concessions right off the bat. So it felt like there was an attitude where we weren't feeling appreciated as workers for what we do for the company. When it's all cuts, we were asking, well, what's here for us? That we didn't see anything for us in this package. It makes us feel undervalued.
So the proposals, they've been called disappointing, maybe even disrespectful. From your perspectives, what do these takeaways mean for everybody who works at Safeway, and what should they be thinking about?
I think our Safeway coworkers should probably be are probably feeling very frustrated. We went to early bargaining in December, and we all kind of thought that this is the start of bargaining. This is where we're going to see the first proposal. We're going to take a vote on it, and things will continue. And what we're seeing instead is that we are starting from ground zero again.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that we kind of got somewhere on is we have to do all this work over again. And that's very frustrating. That feels very disrespectful of the time, of the energy, of the vote we did before, because we know what we need to see before we're going to get before we're going to get a vote on a contract we can accept. So definitely feels like time has been wasted, like the company is dragging its feet. So I imagine frustration.
Mm-hmm. And there's an affordability crisis right now. I think people have already been feeling like they've fallen quite behind over the course of the current contract. And, to see all of these concessions on the table now for discussion, it's very concerning to think that, this could result in not being able to catch up, right? There's a great need for financial boost for fellow workers. And we're not seeing that in the employer's proposal package.
Yeah, that's very fair. I guess my question to both of you would be, what's a proposal that's the union's putting forward right now that you're excited for and that you're looking forward to fighting about with the company? I say fighting because, that seems to be the mood every time I go in there with the company. But, it can be collaborative too. Yeah, are there any proposals out there right now that are, you're looking forward to being talked about?
You know what? We have put forward a proposal for free menstrual hygiene products for workers. I don't believe that we've heard a response back on it yet. But it is, an important issue. And
It's an unavoidable expense.
Yeah, absolutely.
People have to deal with at any time of day.
Yeah.
It's something that definitely affects your experience in the workplace, and it's something that everybody that needs it should have access to.
Yeah, it's something that we want to do to address a gender pay gap. It's something that people need, especially in an affordability crisis. And, this is something that we sell in the stores that we work in. We think that it would be an easy accommodation.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of different employers do offer that. So, maybe it's time that Safeway and Sobeys get with the time on that one. What about you, Justin? Anything that you're looking forward to talking about with the company? Or maybe one that we've already talked about in the last, couple rounds?
Lots of things we haven't gotten to yet. I think it's good to talk about the things that we've been discussing, that we've been working on, just so people get a better idea about some of these non-monetary things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know we're all excited about the monetary things. But we've also been discussing signage in the workplace for respectful workplace policies, for making sure that it's very visible when customers come in, that it is expected that they treat workers with respect. I know things are a little different between rural stores and city stores. This isn't maybe as personal to me, because when you're in a smaller place, so many people on such a personal level, so many of the regulars, that it's a very different experience than in a bigger city where you're seeing new people constantly. And I know there's a lot more traffic as well for the stores here. So it's something I think the whole committee is really passionate about, is making sure that there's things in place to protect workers from those sort of hostile situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I only have one more question for the both of you, and that's for anyone who's listening and wants to get involved. What can Safeway members do between now and the next round of bargaining to show support and stay informed?
Talk to your shop stewards. Ask your reps questions. I think it's important that we're all talking to each other. We need to organize like micro networks, check in with each other. Did you see that email? Have you watched the new video? Did you see this post on social media?
Did you listen to the latest episode of Voices of 401 podcast?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that having those discussions in person with the workers that it makes a really big difference, because when everybody's aware of what's going on, that's what's really gonna build an organized power source for us. I think it's not in between this round and next round, but I really like to sell on open and transparent bargaining. I think that it's a great idea if people want to put the bargaining dates into their calendars so that they can try to plan to attend and observe what happens at the table. It can be really eye-opening. It can be very informative. You learn a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Sometimes people look at our collective agreements, they look at our contract books, and they're like, this is all Greek to me. Like, what does this really mean? But when you see the process of how we've come to these pieces of the contract, then it kind of clicks into place a little bit better. You know, they understand the nuts and bolts. How did we get here, and what does this really mean?
Oh, that's all very excellent. Like, we want people to stay informed and engaged throughout this process. And Justin, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, go on the website, go to the bargaining hub, see the updates there. I know everyone's tired of hearing this. Make sure your email's up to date. We've been having some Zoom calls in the evening or in the morning where we can give some bargaining updates too. And I know some of those there's not much notice, so make sure you have your email up to date so that you can get the invites to those things when they happen. Yeah, talk to your shop stewards, talk to your reps, talk to if there's a member of the bargaining committee in your store. Any of us would be more than happy to discuss it with you, to show you what the proposals are. You can read them all, again, at the bargaining hub. And yeah, just whatever works for you. I know a lot of people like the podcast better because then you don't have to turn in at a certain time. We got lots of different ways we're trying to reach out to everybody. So whatever works best for you, just find somebody and throw the headphones in, shake down your shop steward, whatever you need to do to find out what's going on.
I think all that is really great advice. I want to thank both of you today for taking the time to talk to us. And we're looking forward to having you on again in the future.
Thank you. Very happy to do it.
Well, happy bargaining, and thanks so much for coming on today. Just a reminder to everyone else who's listening, we have bargaining coming up at a variety of workplaces. So make sure you check in with your current collective agreement, see when it's expiring, if bargaining is coming up, and it's something that interests you. Make sure to talk to your shop steward or your local rep, and you should definitely get involved. Thank you, everybody who tuned into our second episode today. I'm going to be catching up with some workers from the Canada Malting Group this week, and hopefully over some cold brews, we're going to be discussing their recent strike vote and what that means for them. If you'd like to catch that episode, just make sure that you are subscribed and following this podcast. We'll hopefully have that one up soon for you as well. Just make sure you keep stopping by to find out all the latest labor news and stories as we can get them. Take care.